Welcome back, everyone. This is part 2 of the story of Jesus starring Orion and Sun. So remember, in part 1, we introduced you to one of the characters in the story, Orion. And we were looking at a specific time frame, what we commonly call February 26th of 2020, 40 days later through what is known as the season of Lent or the season of sacrifice by Roman Catholic Christians, ending on what is commonly called April 12th of this year, 2020, and that is what we commonly call Easter Sunday. Now we're going to look at the exact same time frame to start out with as far as that it's going to be the season of Lent through Easter Sunday. And what we're going to do, now remember in the first piece, we took a look at this time frame at midnight. What we're going to do is flip that to its opposite, and we're going to do a 12-hour difference where we're looking at the same time frame, so the same 40-day period of Lent, but instead we're going to look at everything at high noon. Now, I want to point out a couple of things to you before we get started. What you're looking at here in the screenshot are showing the stars or the constellations as they would appear at high noon if they weren't occulted by the light of the sun. Now, this is very important to understand as we're going forward here. What you're looking at is a picture of the stars, say if it was dark instead, that would be in the sky above your head. But because the sun's light is so bright at high noon, being that it's at its zenith, we'll get into that in a minute, you are not able, obviously then, to see the stars in the sky when the sun is out. But you still, through calculations and observations over thousands of years at this point, and with this powerful tool, Stellarium, we can still see where the stars actually are, even though they are occulted because the sun's light is too bright. Okay, so that's what you're looking at here. And we're looking at it from this perspective. Obviously, it's a perspective that not many people would look at the stars at, right? Because you don't normally see them during the daytime. But this is exactly why we're looking at it from this perspective. So what we're going to start with here first are, like I said, a couple of terms. We introduced you to Orion, the first character in our story here, the constellation of Orion, which you can see if you look on the eastern horizon on the date commonly known as Ash Wednesday, what we commonly call February 26th of 2020, the very beginnings of the constellation Orion, the tip of his bow, is just breaking the horizon line. He was the first character we were introduced to. Now, we're going to introduce some more variables here, but we're going to do it one at a time. So the second variable in the story, the second character we're introducing here at this time, is the sun. So what we're looking at here is on what we commonly call Ash Wednesday, February 26th of 2020, you can see that the sun in the sky is exactly in the cross of the ecliptic line and the north-south meridian line. That's where the sun is at its zenith, which means its highest point in the sky for the day at high noon. That's where you find the sun. All right, so what we're going to start here with, noticing that we're still going to keep an eye on our first character we were introduced to, Orion, rising on the eastern horizon at this time period, and you're also going to simultaneously keep your eye on where the sun is located as we take some random snapshots throughout the 40-day period known as Lent, or the season of sacrifice, ending with Easter Sunday on what is commonly known as April 12th. So as we're looking at the path of both the constellation of Orion and the sun throughout this 40-day period of Lent. We're ending up on the date commonly known as April 12th, 2020, this year. And that is the date that is celebrated this year as Easter Sunday. So we're at high noon on Easter Sunday, and I want you to notice what has happened now with the two characters in our sky story. First, you want to see that the sun that once was, when we started, right, on Ash Wednesday, situated on the cross of the ecliptic and the north-south meridian line, on Easter Sunday is found to be off the cross now on what is commonly known as April 12th, on Easter Sunday, and is in the constellation of Pisces. At the same time, you see our character Orion, the constellation of Orion. It is Easter Sunday, and it's the first day that this constellation is fully visible above the horizon at high noon, when the sun is at its zenith. In other words, Orion is fully risen. Now keep in mind, this is at the same time that the sun has been taken down off the cross of the ecliptic and the north-south meridian while it's at its zenith, or is fully risen. There are double meanings here that we are, for the first time, finally locking together. So let's add in yet another character to this overall story we're looking at here. We're looking at, once again, the same time frame, what is known as the season of Lent, the 40 days of the season of sacrifice in the Christian religion, specifically the Roman Catholic religion. Ash Wednesday, once again, the sun is on the cross of the ecliptic and the north-south meridian at its zenith, and it's showing up in the constellation of Aquarius. Now, it's difficult to see on this image, but you can, once again, visit Stellarium, see this in real time for yourself, but it's in between Pisces and Capricorn, you can see on the ecliptic line, even if you can't read the words that are spelling out Aquarius. So the sun is sitting on the cross, and it's in the constellation of Aquarius. Aquarius is also known as the water bearer. Now, let's take a look at the story of Jesus' baptism that occurred just before the same time frame we're looking at, the 40 days of Lent, celebrated to mirror the actions of Christ that he spent in the desert, leading up to his crucifixion and his resurrection on what we commonly celebrate, if you're a Christian that is, on Easter Sunday. So take a look at our characters that we have already been introduced in the story here. Orion on Ash Wednesday, once again, is just reaching the horizon in the east. And what you're going to see here is the water bearer is the one who is holding the sun. Aquarius, known as the water bearer. Let's see how he fits in the story if we call him John the Baptist, as we're looking at the story of Jesus' baptism. So as we go through, once again, some snapshots of dates occurring in this 40-day time frame known as the season of Lent leading up to Easter, looking at where Orion, the constellation, is rising from the east horizon and where the sun is, both at high noon when the sun is at its zenith. We see that over this 40-day period, ending on the date this year commonly called April 12th of 2020, Easter Sunday, we see that Orion is now up out of the baptismal waters, ascending toward heaven. We also see that the sun has not only moved off the cross of the ecliptic, it's also moved from the constellation of Aquarius as the zodiacal belt or the ecliptic continues moving westward. The sun is now situated in the sky at high noon in the constellation of Pisces. This is important when you're looking at the story of Jesus' baptism and the symbolism that you can see looking at this image. John the Baptist, if you are associating him with Aquarius, appears now at this time on Easter Sunday at high noon to have been beheaded. And Aquarius is descending now down toward the western horizon. The sun no longer being in Aquarius makes it appear as if the water bearer has lost his head. When you look at where Orion is rising into the heavens from the east, if you follow where his bow is pointing, you see that it is pointing directly to the sun in the constellation of Pisces, known as the two fishes. This is the real reason why Jesus was called the fisher of men and is associated with so much fish symbolism. We'll pick it back up in part 3 and go even deeper into this story.